What's up YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today we're doing a post-rotation deck profile for Team Up through Darkness Ablaze. We're going to be looking at Mewtwo and Mew tag team with the Welder package, which is not a new deck with Darkness Ablaze. I think this specific list has one new card from Darkness Ablaze, but it's a deck that's still hanging on somehow even after losing so many of its attackers and losing some of its diversity. It's making up for that loss with some V Pokemon, and it's been performing fairly well in the Hexter TCG tournaments, getting some top 8s and even a win in the most recent Hexter tournament. And there's been a couple different builds. It also did really well in the POG 2020 tournament, which was pre-rotation but showed that the deck could still handle having these stronger VMAXs in the format. So I didn't expect Mew3 to still be this good, but players are showing that it has the strength to combat at least some of the less refined newer decks in the format. Or maybe Mewtwo is just one of the decks that found a really good list early on, and maybe it'll fizzle out later. But it does have a lot of strength, so we're going to look at this deck today in case you're a fan of Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team, and this is a deck maybe you still have all the cards for, and you want to get playing it on the ladder once post-rotation hits today. And this is a deck you might want to test out for this format. Before we get into the deck profile, of course, shout out to PotownStore.com. Use code Celio for 5% off. I really appreciate you all using my coupon code, supporting me and supporting Potown Store. And if you are not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that. Link for my Twitch is in the description down below, as well as a PTCGO export of this deck. So of course we're talking about Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team, and it can only copy GX and EX Pokemon, which is just GX Pokemon in the standard format. You'll notice that there are some V attackers and even a couple of non-GX Pokemon or single prize Pokemon in this deck. So there are Pokemon in here that you can attack with that aren't Mew and that cannot be copied by Mew. Sometimes you'll even be attacking with something like Reshiram as the Reshiram and not using Mew to copy it. So this list was taken from the 6th and 7th place in one of Hexter's tournaments. If you don't know what the Hexter TCG tournaments are, I'll leave a link probably in the pinned comment about that. And if you were one of the people that placed 6th or 7th with this, feel free to, shout yourself out in the comments, or if you have any content you make or anything like that, feel free to plug it. So yeah, it's focused around Mewtwo Mew GX with the perfection ability that allows it to use the attacks of any GX on your bench or in your discard pile. And the way this version accelerates energy is with Welder. That's probably the only version of Mewtwo and Mew GX we'll see now, since we lost to the Solgaleo that kind of powered up the ultimate Mewtwo and Mew version. So it plays Welder with 11 fire energy. That's going to be your main energy source. It also plays 3 horror energy, which is definitely important to note. Some lists play basic psychic, some play aurora energy. Now some are playing horror energy. Horror energy, as long as it's attached to a Pokemon, it provides psychic energy, and if the psychic Pokemon it's attached to is damaged by an opponent's attack, you put 2 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. So this could be really important if you use Mewtwo and Mew's perfection to copy, let's say, Flare Blitz to do 300 to an ADP. If that ADP has a big charm and then it hits into the Mewtwo and Mew with the horror energy on it, the Mewtwo and Mew's knocked out. Now, of course, we do have the Zigzagoon to also fix some math, but a combination of the horror energy giving damage counters to the attacking Pokemon when it hits into your Mew, and then we also have Zigzagoon to use for a little extra damage on top, can help Mewtwo and Mew reach some knockouts that maybe it looked like should be hard for it to reach when you're using GX Pokemon and there are no VMAX Pokemon involved. So let's take a look at some of our other attackers to copy other than the Charizard-GX. Incineroar-GX is an interesting one, and it's being used for the Darkest Tornado GX. It does 50 more damage for each damage counter on your Pokemon. So it does a base of 10 plus 50, so if Mewtwo has 5 damage counters on it, it does 260. If it has 7 damage counters on it. It does 360, so it scales up pretty quickly. So most of the time, if your Mewtwo was hit by anything substantial, you can just one-shot the thing that hit it. Naganadel is nice for getting around the Pokemon that's in the active and hitting the bench. Discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, and you do 170 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. This is really good for just sniping Dedenne, sniping Eldegoss or Crobat with a Zigzagoon Headbutt Tantrum added in. Reshiram is kind of one of the classic Mewtwo and Mew3 attackers. This is like the bread and butter of Mewtwo Welder decks. So Reshiram on its own was fairly good about a year ago when it came out. With the Outrage attack, 30 plus 10 for each damage counter on it, Flare Strike attack, 4 energy for 230, and then Double Blaze GX, which does 200, or with 6 fire energy, it does 300, and it goes through all of effects. So that means it can go through effects like Keldeo-GX or the new Decidueye from Darkness Ablaze. Going on to the other Pokemon that Mewtwo and Mew can copy, we have Espeon and Deoxys, which is definitely interesting with the Cross Division GX. Psychic colorless, put 10 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. If this Pokemon has 3 extra energy, so 1 psychic, 5 colorless, put 20 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon however you like. So this has gotten less good as more sets have come out and as rotation happened. This used to be really good versus Control, it used to be good versus Malamar, things with like 70, 80, 90 HP Pokemon on the board, or even 50 or 60 HP basics that you can get to before they evolve them. The format has a little bit less of that. You can actually use it on turn 2 to like snipe your opponent's Rowlets or Zigzagoons, perhaps if you're playing against Obstagoon or Decidueye and you're worried about getting walled out by one of those decks. But it's also can just be good for cleaning up kills that you missed earlier on, like if you hit something with 230 Flare Strike and then you hit something else with 230 Flare Strike, maybe you can clean up some math with the Cross Division GX. And then we do have 2 other GX Pokemon here, well actually 3 other. We have the Dedenne as well. But we have Cobalion-GX, which each of your Pokemon that has any metal energy attached to it can't be affected by a special condition. We won't be using it for this ability. Some decks may, like ADP Zacian or Luke Metal decks, that might want to stop your Pokemon from being affected by something like Amoonguss in a Vikavolt deck. But this is actually here for Iron Roll GX. During your opponent's next turn, their Pokemon can't attack. This is just situationally useful if you need one more turn to power up with Welder, but if you wait one more turn, your opponent's going to knock something out and win the game. Well, if you have not used your Iron Rule yet, you can Iron Rule and give yourself that one more turn. And the other GX Pokemon to mention here is Jirachi. We, most of the time, will not be attacking with this, but its ability to apply Psychic Weakness when Pokemon take damage from attacks stops Mewtwo and Mew from being weak to psychic attacks. So this is useful if you're worried about being hit by something like Dragapult, an opposing Mew, but of course this would also stop the opponent's Mewtwo from being hit by psychic weakness. And then, like I mentioned, Dedenne's in the deck, of course, as a support Pokemon. You won't be able to use any of its attacks because we're only running Fire and Psychic Heart, Psychic Energy. But it's here for the ability Dedenne change when you play this Pokemon from your hand. Dump your hand, draw 6 new cards. And then for the V Pokemon, like I was mentioning, we have some Pokemon in here that aren't necessarily meant to be copied by Mewtwo and Mew, because Mewtwo and Mew can't copy V Pokemon. Probably a good thing that it can. The Victini V, 190 HP, respectable but kind of low. It's here for the energy burst, 30 times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon, so Victini and the thing it's attacking. This can be really, really good against other Mewtwo decks that just used, like a Reshiram for 6 energy. Could be good against Centiskorch that piled up energy and thought it couldn't be punished. It's also very good against Zacian and Zamazenta. Things like that that are weak to fire. So Victini V, really strong card. It only takes a single Welder, no extra attachments to attack. The extra attachment is just gravy because then you're doing more damage with Energy Burst. We also have Indeedee V, 180 HP. Watch Over. Once during your turn, you may heal 20 damage from your active Pokemon. This is fairly useful. We don't run any Malolana in this deck for extra healing, but if your opponent like got your benched Mewtwo with a Zigzagoon or something, you can promote it and then heal that damage, which could end up mattering in the long run. And it also has the attack Psychic, which kind of like Victini V can punish your opponent for having too many energy on their Pokemon. So Psychic does 10 plus 60 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. This only takes a single horror attachment than Welder, and you do 60 for every energy on your opponent's active Pokemon, plus the base of 10. So if Scentiscorch has 6 energy on it, which isn't unlikely, that can happen, definitely, with a Scentiscorch deck, you'd do 370 damage to it. If it had 5 energy, that's 310 damage. Clean it up with a Headbutt Tantrum, you knocked out a Scentiscorch VMAX with Indeedee V. The other support Pokemon that I did not mention, we have Crobat V Dark Asset. When you play it down, draw until you have 6. Eldegoss, when you play it down, get a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. And then this isn't really a support Pokemon like these, but it's also not here to attack. Flare Starter, if you go second, you can search your deck for up to 3 fire energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon however you like. And you could also use High Heat Blast to do 110 if you have at least 4 fire energy in play. If you attach, then next turn attach Welder or something on the bench, High Heat Blast a Zacian, that's knockout if they don't have any defensive tools. So a lot of Pokemon to keep track of here, and you can always be customizing and changing a Mew3 deck. I've seen some interesting ones. I'll probably get gameplay with them soon when post-rotation ladder is up. But I've seen some with Rhyperior V that I think is just really cool because I love Rhyperior and I'm a sucker for Fringe V cards that are somewhat like playable in a perfect world but don't get a lot of love. So I'll be trying out that Rhyperior V build as well. So for trainers, it's kind of straightforward. The 4 Welder, because it is a Welder deck, and then just 1 Research because you want to be playing Welder. And then 2 Boss's Order. Again, you want to be playing Welder, but sometimes you need to Gust. I wouldn't hate seeing a Great Catcher in this deck, to be honest. 4 Cherish Ball, 4 Switch, 4 Quick Ball. So 4 Cherish Ball, 4 Quick Ball, very nice. Since Mysterious Treasure's gone, we can't use that to get Mew. So Cherish Ball, very good. And Cherish Ball can get you Dedenne, which is super important. Pokégear gets you your support. I would say supporters, but it's really just try to grab Welder. That's what this card is. So I think this list was really built for consistency. With the 4 Welder, 4 Gear, that's pseudo 8 outs to Welder, or at least Pokégear has a chance at Welder. You have 4 Cherish Ball, 4 Quick Ball, so that's 8 outs to starting your turn with either a search for Mewtwo or Dedenne, in addition to the 3 hard copies of Dedenne and the 3 hard copies of Mewtwo. So I really like that. And then 3 Giant Hearth, also very, very consistent, because you want to be drawing into that Giant Hearth to give you an out to getting 2 fire energy, because it's hard to always naturally draw into 2 fire energy. I like the Reset Stamp. It's hard for me to say the 1 is going to be useful very often when you're dumping your hand with the Dedenne, probably turn 1 and turn 2, maybe even a 3rd turn somewhere in there. But you're not dumping your hand with your supporters most of the time. You're trying to build a new hand with Welder a bit, so maybe Reset Stamp is better than I give it credit for in this deck. But also with aggressive decks, I tend to not like Reset Stamp too much. This deck just wants to go off, take a knockout, try to end the game as quick as possible. But Reset Stamp is definitely a strong card. It's hard to deny that. And then, like I said earlier, we have the 11 Fire, 3 Horror Psychic, and that's the whole deck. Like I said, this came in 6th and 7th place in the Hexter TCG tournament, which is run through Discord and I want to say Battlefy, and that was on August 24th. And then in the August 26th tournament, this came in 1st place. I'm sorry, not this list. Mewtwo Welder came in 1st place in the 826 Hexter TCG tournament. So, like I said, I'll pin the Hexter TCG Discord in the pinned comment. I'll pin it in the comments. I'll pin it. You get what I'm saying. So, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed Mew3 in the past, not much has changed. Yes, it did lose some attackers, but apparently it's still pretty good. So yeah, you got a good deck to play here. If you already had the cards from Mewtwo, you like it. Even if you like fire decks, if you like aggressive decks, if you like decks with a ton of different attackers, a toolbox deck, there's a lot of different facets that you can put on Mewtwo decks. And it's a versatile, aggressive, powerful, tournament-winning deck. So if any of those things appeal to you, maybe you want to try Mew3. I have the list down in the description below for you, as always. And if you have not already subscribed to the channel, please do so if you want to see more content like this in the future. Leave a like on the video because it does help me reach new viewers, possibly like you were if you're new here. Check out PotownStore.com for all of your PTCGO needs. Use code CELIO for 5% off, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.